I'm Vanja Samuelsson, and I'm founder of a company called Qoitech, and we are very passionate about helping developers to better the battery life of their products. So we really want the IoT to happen, and we understand that the money in IoT is all in those services, and but all of that is actually built on top of things. And if you do not take care of the things, you will not have a viable business. So let's talk about the things and the battery connected to these things. So why is the battery life important? There are three things that you need to consider regarding it. So it's the user experience, the reliability, maintenance cost. User experience, obviously, you don't want to be having issues in the sense that the battery has run out, or you are having maybe you have to actually run and change those batteries, or you are doing something and something happens and you don't have that, which is really closely connected to reliability. Maintenance costs, if you have something implemented in big housing, or if you're actually somewhere really far remotely, you don't want to be going back there doing that. And above all, it's actually thinking about how to get all these three together and how they're really interacted. So I wanted to give you an example, because I think examples are always the best. And I'm going to actually use the smart home example and the fact of these kind of smart guards that we have out there. This is a typical picture you would probably, when you Google and you think about, I'm going to buy something, or big companies actually buying IoT infrastructures and they really want to get different types of sensors for it, or they are evaluating different sensors. This is what you would kind of get. And yes, it's really awful in the sense that there's so much to choose from, and there are so many different things you should be considering and how to go about it. But you can actually create devices that are differentiating among this list. And I will actually use Sensitive as example. They are very much our customer, so obviously we have a really great relationship. But they have done something that is really interesting here. So they approached to the design of their IoT or their thing by thinking, okay, how do we connect these three things? The maintenance, the reliability, and the user experience, saying, okay, you actually can't see it, but the strip is really, really, really thin. And it's really, really, really user experience such that you don't actually see it when you put it in the door's guard, as a guard thing. So when you close the door, you don't actually see it. Whereas all the other competitors, obviously it's a very bulky kind of design, usually to fit the battery because you are interacting with that. They also are fighting really hard to get the 10 years of battery life and succeeding quite well. Because again, they're thinking in ways of how to get that maintenance time down and how to actually differentiate. So power design is really tricky, and you haven't noticed yet. You will when you start working with it. And there are simple reasons why there are. There are certain myths that people kind of go by when it comes to the design of the hardware. Battery life is usually considered as nominal battery capacity divided by the average current. And there is no such thing. There is nothing that is a nominal battery capacity, even though you might see a data sheet on it. And average current is definitely not happening, especially if you do have an application, which you do, which is very much unique and very much original to everything else that anybody else is doing. So that is a big myth and a thing that you should be thinking about. Yet another one is that power consumption is all about hardware. Now, today, you can't really say that there is actually such a case, because on top of the hardware, we're building layers and layers of software. And this is where it kind of comes all together, that you have to really consider the whole system performance. You can't really say, hey, you are the hardware designer, go to the lab and fix this for me. But you actually have to move this responsibility into the whole stack and consider how the code that you're submitting is actually performing or actually making any sense for the system performance. Now, the tricky part about power design is that it's magic in a sense. It's so iterative. So you have to start somewhere. So for some people, they would say, okay, I come from maybe technology perspective, and they will say, yeah, I want to really have this cool battery and this cool platform and work from there, and then I will see what I'll end up. Whereas some other people will come and say, no, this is the application, and this is the user case, and this is the actual form factor, and then they try to fit a lot of different technology into it to make the user case to work. Either way, whatever approach you're taking, you will end up in iterating back and forth, because the fact is all of these are affecting the performance. The size might be very small. You need to choose a small battery, but then maybe you cannot really run on the small battery because your application demands you to be active and send and signal a lot, or you are performing in an environment that is not really suitable for the battery that you chose for the form factor that you really want. And you go back and forth and back and forth. And if you don't have insights on what is happening from the battery life perspective when you do this iteration, you're pretty much stuck. And what you're going to be doing is you're going to be having a product qualities, bad product quality, and you will have issues with the development time that will take longer time. So how to work with energy optimization? Well, what you can do, 3 simple steps. Everything comes in 3, right? So awareness throughout the product development maintenance cycle. You have to really move and get the mindset of saying, if I'm going to develop a product, I have to really have the system perspective and demand that everybody who is involved really has that perspective, and that they are responsible for the battery life from their whatever they are submitting, if it is hardware design or it's software design. Involvement of the developers throughout the stack, absolutely, that's the key thing, which means that software engineers might be doing things that hardware engineers are doing now, and the hardware engineers really need to look into how the software and applications and layers are working out on the technology that is chosen. And lastly, where we actually fit is the easy-to-use, accessible, and affordable and collaborative tools, because we are now connecting the disciplines, and to actually be working with this, you need to have a tool that works for you, and the tools that can actually give you the insights on how is this working, and how you can close the loop quicker when it comes to the product development and engineering in general. So Qoitech, and if you're really curious about how we are helping companies to do so, check out the product that we have, OT. If you have time now afterwards, because we are last ones, you can chat with me or my colleague Werner. He has actually the product with us. We have product with us, so we can have a kind of live demo and see what can actually be done when you are doing and designing your hardware or an IoT product. And follow us on YouTube. We have a lot of fun stuff there happening, showing you how actually to work with the energy optimization. Thanks.